Okay, good evening, everyone. So in the last class, we started the S3, right? Simple storage service, which is an object-based storage. And we have seen like how to create an S3 bucket and how to upload an object, right? And whenever you store any object, that object will be stored using different types of storage classes. Each and every storage class will provide you a different type of features. And there is a unique use case for each and every storage class. So today we will discuss about each and every storage class, and we will upload objects into each and every storage class. So we can exclude this RRS. Nobody will use that, but I will explain like what it is, and we cannot observe the difference between the RRS and the standard, but there is a slight difference that we can discuss. Okay. So now first we will start with the standard storage class. This standard storage class is most commonly used storage class, and the use case of the standard storage class is to store the objects which are frequently accessible. Let us say you upload one object, and that object to be accessed daily once, or every day that object to be accessed by a single person or a multiple people. That means frequently accessed object, right? The standard storage class is designed for storing the frequently accessed objects. The reason is there is no retrieval charges. What is the meaning of a retrieval charges? Let us say you uploaded one object and there is one person who is trying to open the object, like open the file or downloading the file. That is called as a one retrieval. If 1,000 people try to open the object, that means that is called as 1,000 retrievals. 1,000 times that object gets accessed. So in the standard storage class, there is no retrieval charges. If you store the regularly accessed object in a different storage class in which there is a retrieval charges, so every time a person accesses the object, there will be an additional retrieval charges, right? So to avoid such kind of a things, the standard storage class is designed to store frequently accessed objects. And here there is no retrieval charges. And durability, already we discussed that durability is 99.99%. But what about the availability? What about the availability? Before that, let us write down like standard storage class is designed to store the frequently accessed objects. Like the objects which can be accessed regularly, this is best recommended way to store the objects. And there is no retrieval charges. And there is no retrieval charges. And we have to note down few other things like what is the availability, how much availability that Amazon is providing you. So if you go for the EC2, the availability is 99.99%, right? What is the availability of this standard storage class? And what is the minimum object size? And what is the minimum amount of days you have to keep the data? Let us say if I upload one object into the S3 bucket using standard storage class, and after 1 day I deleted that object. So for how many days I will be charged? For 1 day or 30 days? So that varies depending on the storage class. In which storage class you have stored the objects, depending on that, the charges will be varied. So we will note down the few things like by default, in how many availability zones the data will be stored. Because to provide the high availability and high durability, high reliability or durability, both are same. To provide the high durability, Amazon will maintain the object across multiple facilities. That means across multiple availability zones. By default, the standard storage class will maintain the objects in minimum 3 availability zones. That means sometimes it might store your data across 4 availability zones also. But the guaranteed thing is the copy of your data, I can say, will maintain the copy of an object in minimum 3 availability zones. So if one availability zone goes down, automatically the data will be easily recovered from the copies maintained across the 3 other availability zones. Now, what is the availability? How much availability they are going to provide you? Will they provide like 99.99%? Basically, that is required for the interview point of view, but the certification, they don't ask you about those kind of like how much percentage availability and all these things. Because for the work time, you must know what is the availability and everything. Because if they ask you like to store the data in highly available storage class, so we must know which storage class will provide you what kind of availability, right? So quickly what I do is, I will show you one table in which you can observe the availability and in how many availability zones the data will be stored and what is the minimum size. Let us say if you go back to the previous years, like 10 years back, I think everybody might use mobile phones, right? Not 10 years. Like if you go back to the 2014 or 2015 also, what was the plans? You will be charged like per minute, I think per second, right? Before that, there used to be like per minute billing. What is the meaning of that? If you make a call for at least like only 10 seconds or 20 seconds, you will be charged for the entire 60 seconds bill, right? That means the call plan is like 1 minute duration. In the same way, in this storage class, if I store some data, minimum how much storage cost I will be charged? Is there any minimum size for the object? Like even if I store like only 1 KB file, are they going to charge you like 1 MB or 1 GB? Again, that varies depending on the storage classes. So first we are talking about the standard, right? So here is the standard storage class, which is designed for frequently accessed data. Which is designed for frequently accessed data. That means if the object is accessed more than once in a month. More than once means if you are accessing twice or thrice, then obviously you have to go for standard. And in how many availability zones the data will be stored? 3 or more availability zones. Greater than or equal to 3 means 3 or more availability zones. What is the meaning of the minimum storage duration? If you store for 1 hour, you will be charged for 1 hour only. If you store for 1 day, you will be charged for 1 day. So that is called as minimum object, or I can say no minimum object storage duration. So there is no mandate that you have to store the object for at least 30 days or 60 days. You can store for 1 day and you can delete after 1 day. So you will be charged for 1 day itself. You will not be charged for more than the days or the number of days what you have stored. And then what is the minimum billable object size? Minimum billable object size. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? Minimum billable object size. Like if you compare with the mobile plans in the olden days, if you the tariff plan is like every 1 minute, right? That means if you use the mobile, if you make a call for less than 1 minute also, you will be charged for 1 minute. So in the same way here, in the standard storage class, the minimum billable object size is 0. If you store 1 KB file, you will be charged for 1 KB. If you store for only 1 byte, you will be charged for 1 byte of data only. So there is no minimum size of the object. But if you go for the other storage classes, you can see there is some minimum billable object size on other storage classes, but that is easy to remember. Easy to remember because the minimum storage is 128 KB only for 3 or 3 only, but that easily we can remember, that we can discuss. Minimum billable object size is not applicable. I can say not applicable. That means whatever you store, you will be charged for that only. What if let us say the minimum billable object size is 1 GB. Assume that the minimum billable object size is 1 GB. Then if you store 1 MB file also, you will be charged for 1 GB. If you store like 1.1 GB, then you will be charged for 2 GB. Like that's like about like every 1 GB, they will calculate the charges. Even in the EC2 instance, what are the charges for the EC2 instance? Every 1 hour, right? That means if you use for 40 minutes, you will be charged for 1 hour. What if you use like 63 minutes? You will be charged for 2 hours. They will close to the nearest next hour. I cannot say nearest. They will charge you for the next closest hour. Even if it's use 61 minutes, they will charge you for 120 minutes, like 2 hours. The billing cycle for the EC2 instances is every hour. Okay. So minimum billable object size is not applicable. And already we discussed that there is no retrieval charges. You can see that there is no retrieval charges. You can see that there is no retrieval charges for the standard storage class. And if you see quickly, there are different storage classes available: intelligent tiering, standard IA, one zone IA, all the things, right? First, let us discuss about each and every storage class, and then we can upload the objects. So next one, we will discuss about standard IA. In the table, there is the other one, which is the intelligent tier. But to understand the intelligent tier, first we have to understand about the standard IA. So here, in this case, IA stands for infrequent access. IA stands for infrequent access. What is the meaning of infrequent access? The data which accessed infrequently, not regularly, occasionally, like monthly once or yearly once. What is the purpose of that? Like I would like to store the data, but whenever I need the data, I can use that. Like every monthly once or quarterly once or yearly once for validation or for checking purpose, I can use the data. So why should I store into the standard IA? Because in the standard, like you can, that is for regularly accessed, right? But why should I use the standard IA? When comparatively with the standard IA will offer you the lowest storage cost. Let us say in the standard, they are offering you like $1 for 1 GB. So in the standard IA, they might charge you only $0.8 per GB. But this is designed for infrequent access data. So what will happen if I store the frequently accessed data into the standard IA? Obviously, I will be charged less amount, right? Storage cost. But the problem is in the standard IA, there is a retrieval charges. Every time you access the object, there will be a retrieval charges. So if you store the frequently accessed data into the standard IA, in a month, if 10,000 times the object got accessed, the storage cost will be less, but you have to pay more retrieval charges. So you will end up with by paying more amount than what you have to pay in the standard storage class. So this standard IA is designed to store infrequently accessed data. Standard IA is designed for infrequently accessed data. I can say is designed to store infrequently accessed data. I can say once in a month. And here, retrieval charges applicable. That means every time we access the object, there will be a retrieval fees. Every time we access, we open or download, there will be a retrieval fees. If you like every time, like let us say they are charging you 1 cent. So if you access 100 times, there will be 100 cents, which is like $1. If you access 1,000 times, there will be a $10 additional fees apart from the standard IA storage class. Standard IA will cost you less storage cost than the standard storage class. You can take some sample example like $1 for standard. So there might be a charge like $0.8 for the standard IA. In how many availability zones the data will be stored? In how many zones the data will be stored? Copy of your data will be maintained in minimum 3 availability zones, like 3 or more availability zones, same as standard. But one more thing, what is the availability? Because we missed that availability part, right? What is the availability? Okay, that I will show you later. First, let us write down all the things, because the availability is different for each and every storage class. I will show you the tabular form where we can get the individual availabilities for each and every storage class. Okay, so then what is the next one? Yeah, the copy of the data will be maintained in minimum 3 availability zones. If you store one image, the copy of the image will be maintained across minimum 3 availability zones. That we call it as 3 or more availability zones. And then what is the minimum storage duration? 30 days. What is the meaning of that? If you are storing 1 GB of data, after one day, if you delete the 1 GB of data, you will be charged for entire 30 days. Even if you delete less than 30 days, you will be charged for the entire 30 days. And then there is one more thing called minimum billable object size. They will charge you for every 128 KB. If you upload 1 KB file, you will be charged for 128 KB. If you upload for 127 KB, you will be charged for 128 KB. That is the minimum billable object size. Okay. What if you upload 101 KB files? You have a lot of files. Each file is 1 KB, 1 KB or 2 KB. If you upload 100 files, which are like 1 KB and 1 KB only, then how much you will be charged? 128. 128 or each object 128 KB? Each object will be 128 KB. Here is not the minimum storage size. It is minimum billable object size. They will calculate for every object available in your bucket. If you have one object of 1 KB, they will consider that as a 128 KB. If you have 100 objects like that, they will calculate that 128 KB objects of 100 objects available. Like 128 into 100 KB. Almost it's like few MBs of data, right? 1000 MB is 1000 KB is 1 MB. So almost you might be charged like 128 MB or so. So copy of the data will be maintained in minimum 3 availability zones, and minimum object storage duration is 30 days. And then minimum billable object size is 128 KB. (128 KB is the minimum billable object size. Already we discussed that there is a retrieval charges. Every time you open the data or every time you download the object, there is an additional retrieval fees applicable. Okay, so what is the next one? Keeping that intelligent tier aside, we have one zone IA, right? We have the third one called one zone IA. So here also the IA stands for infrequent access. So what is the meaning of this one zone IA? Same as infrequent access only, but the data will be stored in one availability zone. Whatever the data you store, the copy of the data will be available in one availability zone. If something went wrong, then there is a possibility that you might lose the data. There is a possibility that you might lose the data. So here, the one zone IA is also designed to store the infrequently accessed object which can be reproduced easily. What is the meaning of reproducible? So here they use a thing called recreatable data. Even if you lose the data, if it will not impact your business, and if you are able to recreate the data, if you are able to recreate whatever the data you stored in the one zone IA, in such cases, you have to use one zone IA. But the data will be maintained in only one availability zone. This is recommended to use only to store the data which can be easily recreatable, or we can say reproducible. Let us say I uploaded one or two images into the S3 bucket using one zone IA. Suddenly I lost the data due to some hardware failure or so. If I am able to regenerate those images, then my choice is the good one to store in the one zone IA. But if I don't have a facility to reproduce that lost data, then one zone IA is not recommended to use. Sometimes what will happen here is some websites will generate some thumbnails, right? For the images, they will produce the thumbnails. Somewhere they have to store all the thumbnails. But the thumbnails can be easily generated using the original images. Even if they lost the thumbnails, they can easily reproduce the thumbnails by using the original images. In such cases, to store those kind of thumbnails, you can use one zone IA. So here also, is there any retrieval charges? Yes, retrieval charges applicable. Whenever you open or download the object, there will be an additional retrieval charges. And the copy of your data will be maintained in one availability zone only. Whenever the data is maintained in one availability zone, obviously there is a very less availability. There is a high chances of losing your data. And every other option is the same. Every other option is the same. Apart from the one availability zone, every option is same as standard IA. Like the minimum object storage duration is 30 days and minimum billable object size is 128 KB. The only difference between the standard IA and one zone IA is in standard IA, the data will be maintained across 3 availability zones, whereas in one zone IA, the data will be maintained in only one availability zone. Coming to the use case, the standard IA storage class is used to store infrequently accessed data, whereas the one zone IA is used to or recommended to store the recreatable infrequently accessed data. Okay, right. What is the next one? Intelligent tier. What is the meaning of intelligence? Intelligence or something? It has some kind of technology to automatically identify something, right? That we can use the term called intelligence. So this storage class will automatically move your data across standard and standard IA. Let us say I would like to store some data, but I don't know the data is frequently accessible or infrequently accessible. I don't know the use case, like I don't know how the data to be accessible. In that case, If the data is like frequently accessed, and if I store in standard IA, there is like huge retrieval charges. If the data is infrequently accessed, and if I store in the standard, then I have to pay more storage cost, right? So such kind of data, we can say that unknown access pattern. That means I don't know how the data will be accessible. Unknown access pattern. So that the intelligent tier storage class continuously monitor your object access pattern. And if the object is not accessed in the last 30 days, automatically that object will be moved to the standard IA. Once the object is accessed, again, it will be moved to the stand. So we cannot see that. That is automatically mentioned as an intelligent tier. But in the backend, this intelligent tier storage class continuously monitor the objects. Automatically, it will move the data from standard to standard IA and vice versa, based on the usage pattern. If you see the tabular, so you can see data with changing or unknown access pattern. This month, the data is regularly accessible, and in the next month, it is infrequently accessed. So according to that usage, the intelligent tiering automatically move the data from one storage class to another storage class automatically. Okay. So I can say that intelligent tier storage class is recommended to store the data with unknown or changing access patterns. Is there any retrieval charges? And in how many availability zones the data will be stored? So whatever the data you store in the intelligent tier, that will be stored across standard and standard IA. So what are the availability zones for standard and standard IA? Minimum 3. So in the same way, the intelligent tier storage class also maintains the data across minimum 3 availability zones. Minimum 3 availability zones. And there is no minimum storage duration, and there is no minimum billable object size, and there is no retrieval fees, but there is an additional charges called monitoring charges. There is an additional charges called monitoring charges, because that is very nominal charges, because it has to monitor your data continuously, right? So that's why there will be a monitoring charges applicable for how many objects. It doesn't based on the size. Let us say if you have like 1,000 objects, and all the 1,000 objects are less than 128 KB. So there is no charges. If the object is more than 128 KB, then only Amazon will charge for monitoring. Okay. So here we can say that no retrieval charges applicable. And the copy of the data will be maintained across minimum 3 availability zones, and the data will be moved across standard and standard IA based on the usage. If the object is regularly used, then that will be maintained in the standard. If the object is not accessed in a month, then that will be automatically moved to the standard IA. And no minimum storage duration, and no minimum billable object size. If you store 1 KB of file, you will be charged for 1 KB only. If you store like 100 KB, you will be charged for 100 KB. So there is no minimum billable object size. But there is what we call that, auto monitoring charges for the objects greater than or equal to 128 KB. Monitoring charges or auto tiering charges. We can say monitoring charges. Because based on the monitoring only, it will understand the usage pattern, like access pattern, and the data will be moved across one storage class to another storage class. For that, there will be some additional charges. And whatever the storage classes we discussed, whatever the objects you store, objects are readily available for access. No need to wait. Instantly you can access the data. Apart from that, we have one more object storage class, which is called as RRS, reduced redundancy charge storage class. Glacier, we will come back and we will discuss about the Glacier. So in the reduced redundancy, non-critical frequently accessed data, same as standard only, frequently accessed data. But here they are storing as non-critical, because in the reduced redundancy, it is same as the standard only. But the only difference is in the reduced redundancy, there is some retrieval charges applicable. Okay, you can see in how many availability zones it is getting stored? 3. What about the standard? Same 3. And there is no minimum storage duration, no minimum billable object size, and there is only thing is retrieval charges. But there is no difference between the standard and reduced redundancy. If you have a requirement to store the object, which storage class you prefer, standard or reduced redundancy? Obviously standard, right? Because in the standard, there is no additional retrieval charges. Let us say if I upload 1 GB data in standard and 1 GB data in the reduced redundancy. The first thing is, in the reduced redundancy, I will get an additional retrieval charges. And one more drawback with the reduced redundancy is the availability is very less. Availability is very less. That's why they use a term called non-critical frequently accessed data. What is the meaning of non-critical? If you lose the data and if the data is not available to access, if it will not impact your business, then we can say that the data is non-critical. So the reduced redundancy is only recommended to store non-critical data. In the name itself, it is having the reduced redundancy, right? What is the meaning of reduced? Less, right? So in this storage class, you will get the less redundancy. That means there is a possibility that you might lose your data. That's why this is recommended for non-critical frequently accessed data. And retrieval charges applicable. Retrieval charges applicable, and no minimum object duration, and no minimum billable object size, and then the data will be, or I can say, copy of the data will be maintained across minimum 3 availability zones. AWS recommends to use standard instead of reduced redundancy storage class. AWS itself recommends to use the standard storage class instead of reduced redundancy storage classes. So as of now, we have seen total 5 storage classes, right? In all the 5 storage classes, whatever the objects you store, those objects are available for immediate access. In all the above storage classes, the data is available for immediate access. What is the meaning of that immediate access? Let us say at this moment, I would like to download the data from the above 5 storage classes. I can do that. So is there any other storage classes that I have to wait to download the data or to open the data? Yes, those are called as glaciers. Glacier storage class is only for archival purpose. What is the meaning of archive? In general, what is the meaning of archive? Have you ever heard about like archive? So if you go for some websites or somewhere, you can see some the date, what we call that, some kind of online library sites or something. You can see something called archive, where you can see the old data, like old books or old newspapers. To mention such kind of things, they will use the term called archive. So there is no use of such old data, but sometimes we might require the data for the reference, right? Regularly, we don't use that, but sometimes we might require the data for reference. In such cases, to store the data, we can use the glacier. Let me show you that. Actually, earlier, there is only one storage class called glacier. But now that glacier is divided into 3 different classes: glacier instant retrieval, glacier flexible retrieval, and then the third one is a glacier deep archive. Before few months also, there are only 2 things. One is a glacier and glacier deep archive. But recently they categorized into 3 glacier types. So first, let us discuss about what exactly the glacier is. First, let us see what is a glacier. Glacier is a storage class which we can use to store the data for longer times as an archive. Glacier is recommended to store the data for longer periods as an archive. And whatever the data we store into the glacier, the data is not available for immediate access. You have to wait. The data stored in glacier storages is not available for immediate access. We need to wait for restoring the data. I mean, we need to send a initiate restore process, so that after some time, the data will be available. Again, in this glacier, what is the use case? What is the use case of the glacier? What are the different scenarios where we can use the glacier? The first example is the backups. So are we going to use the backups regularly? Like every day you will use a backup to restore your data? No. Every day we will create the backup and we will store the backups. But if something goes wrong, then we have to get the backups, right? And the other case is you have like a lot of servers. Every server will generate some log files, right? Applications will have log files. As per your organization policy, every log must be available for minimum 365 days. But whenever the log file is 1 day older, there is no use. If it is more than 1 week older, we cannot use the log file, right? If something is going wrong at this moment, we have to check the log file for today only, not like yesterday or day before yesterday. So to store such kind of data like backups or log file, for all these kinds, we can use the glacier. like to store the backups, log files, etc. We can use this Glacier or your images. Like you went on for a trip and you have to store the data, but initially for the first 1 month or so, regularly you will check the photos, right? But after 1 month, we don't check those photos, right? But we need those photos as a backup. But after 1 year, if you need the data, you can download, but you can wait for like 1 hour, 1 day or something to make the data available. In such cases, we can use the Glacier. Later, Glacier has been categorized into 3 storage classes. Glacier has been categorized into 3 storage classes. Let us discuss about each and every storage class. The first one is Glacier Instant Retrieval. And the second one is Glacier Flexible Retrieval. By seeing the name itself, easily we can understand the use case. And then Glacier Deep Archive. So first, let us discuss about Glacier Instant Retrieval. The use case is the same: to store the long-lived data, to store the objects for longer periods as an archive. The data is not available for immediate access. You have to wait for some time. How much time? That depends on the, what we call that, restoration method. How you are initiating the restore option. First, you have to request, I need the data to access. So how you are requesting that? By using which method you are requesting. Based on that, the data will be available. So first thing is Glacier Instant Retrieval. The one advantage with the Glacier Instant Retrieval is whatever the data you store using the Glacier Instant Retrieval, the data is available for immediate access once in a quarter. Let us say from January to March. For one time, you can access the data immediately. No need to wait for any time. But for the second time onwards, the data is not available for the immediate access. You have to send a initiate restore request. After some time, the data is available. In the Glacier Instant Retrieval, the data is available for immediate access once in a quarter. After that, the data is not available for immediate access. You have to wait. Now, the remaining things. Is there any retrieval charges? Is there any minimum storage duration? Is there any minimum billable object size? And in how many availability zones the data will be stored? The first thing is there any retrieval charges? Yes, obviously there is a retrieval charges. So first we are discussing about the Glacier Instant Retrieval, right? You can see there is a retrieval charges available per GB. How much data you are restoring, you are accessing, that much size you will be applying. And minimum billable object size is 128 KB and minimum storage duration is 90 days. And what is the minimum availability zones? 3. Okay. So first thing is retrieval charges applicable. And then the copy of the data will be maintained across minimum 3 availability zones. Simple thing. There is a storage class called one zone IA, right? Only for that storage class, the data will be available in one availability zone. For all other storage classes, the data will be maintained in minimum 3 availability zones. That's how easily you can remember the minimum availability zones. Only for one zone IA, the data will be maintained across one availability zone. For all other storage classes, the data will be maintained in minimum 3 availability zones. And then, is there any minimum object size? Yes, 128 KB. Minimum object size is 128 KB. What about the what we call that minimum billable object size? Minimum billable object size is 128 KB. Then what is the minimum object storage duration? 90 days. For the Glacier Flexible, also 98 days. Sorry, 90 days. Only for the Glacier Deep Archive, it is 180 days, 180. Minimum object storage duration is 90 days. And then let us see the Glacier Flexible Retrieval. What else we missed? Have we missed any other point? Retrieval charges, yeah, okay. Now coming to the Glacier Flexible Retrieval. So here also, to access the data, we need to initiate a restore. We need to initiate a restore and need to wait for some time. Again, there are 3 different methods available. We will discuss that also. There are like expedited retrieval, standard retrieval, and bulk retrieval that we can discuss while we are initiating the restoration. So here also everything is the same. Retrieval charges applicable. Minimum billable object size is 128 KB. Object storage duration is 90 days. And the data will be available in 3 availability zones. The only difference between these two is, if you see the instant retrieval, instant means immediate, right? In a given quarter, you can access the data immediately once. For the second time onwards, we have to wait for some time. But in the flexible retrieval, even once also, the data is not available for immediate access. If you would like to access the data, you have to send or you have to initiate a restore method. That we can see what are the restoration options and everything. And finally, we have the Glacier Deep Archive. And for this also, everything is the same except the minimum object storage duration. But the difference is cost. Storage cost is very less in the Deep Archive. Glacier Instant Retrieval, that is a cheap. Instant retrieval, flexible retrieval, it is somewhat cheaper than the flexible instant retrieval. And the Glacier Deep Archive is the cheapest storage option. They will charge you very, very less amount. But the minimum object storage duration is 180 days. So now what we do is, I will create 8 different files, or you can use any name. Okay, you can upload any objects, but for our convenience, I will create 8 text files and I will give the names as storage classes. So I will create one text file as standard and I will upload that object using the standard storage class. I will create one more file called standard IA and I will upload that object into the standard IA storage class. I will create one more and I will upload that into the intelligent tier. Okay. So first what I do is create 7 files, or you can choose any 7 files, that doesn't matter, or better to choose images or text files, because those two are, or PDFs also, because they can be accessible using the browser. No need to download. If I make them as a public, or if I click on open, Images can be loaded using the Chrome browser. Text file can be opened using the Chrome browser, and PDF files also can be opened. Let us say if you open, like what we call that, if you upload some .exe file, which we cannot open, right? Only we can download. So just to avoid that, I will create some simple files. Create 7 files with different names. I will use the storage class names. And then can we upload the objects into the same S3 bucket using different storage classes? Already we have an S3 bucket, right? Do you remember that while we are creating the S3 bucket, have we selected the storage class? No, there is no default storage class applicable for the buckets. You can use the same S3 bucket to store the objects using different storage classes. What I do is, I will upload all the 7 files into the same S3 bucket using different storage classes. What is our S3 bucket name? What is our S3 bucket name? This is our S3 bucket name, right? I will upload all the 8, not 7, 8 files. Okay, let us go with the 7 only, because reduce redundancy, we can ignore that. That is not required. So I'm going to upload the 7 objects into this particular S3 bucket using different storage classes. If I click on that, already we have an object which is uploaded using the standard storage class. Because whenever you upload any object using all default options, the object will be stored into the standard storage class. So upload all 7 files into S3 bucket. This is the name of the S3 bucket using different storage classes. Into different storage classes. Then we will try to open all the objects by as a root user, because root user will have full permissions, right? Let us try to access, open. Select the object, click on open, or you can click on download also, that doesn't matter. If you are able to open or download, then we can say that the object is available for immediate access, right? If we are unable to open or if you are unable to download, then I can say that the object is not available for immediate access. So what is the first step? We have to create 7 different files with different names. So for that, what I do is I will create a folder on my desktop. So in this, I will create different files. Text. Okay, so let me give names. Standard, and then standard IA, then one zone IA, intelligent tire. Then what else we have? Glacier, instant, then glacier flexible, and then glacier deep archive. I think it's better to keep some data also, so that we can understand whether we are able to open the file or not. Glacier deep archive, use some data. At least we should know, right, that data is visible or not. And then here glacier instant retrieval. So if you upload any object, by default, that will be uploaded to the standard storage class, right? But we have to upload using different storage classes. So first, let us upload one object into the standard storage class. So how to upload any object into the S3 buckets? First, navigate to the S3 service. Navigate to the S3 service and then click on your bucket. Click on your bucket. Click on upload. Click on add files. And this is the file. The file name is standard. And I would like to upload that file using the standard storage class. To select the storage class, but by default, that will be selected as a standard only. But to select the storage class, if you scroll down, you can find out an option called properties, right? Select the properties. Click on the properties. Then you can see the different storage classes available on S3. Make sure that you selected the standard storage class. Make sure that you select the standard storage class. Scroll down. Don't forget about all these options for now. We are going to discuss about each and every feature. Scroll down to the bottom and click on upload. So the object is getting uploaded. Once you got upload succeeded, click on close. And you can see the standard.txt file is uploaded using the storage class called standard storage class. Now I will upload another file into the standard IA storage class. The same process we have to repeat, but under the storage class, you have to select standard IA. Click on upload, add files, select the standard-IA. Up to here, there is no change, right? For every object, the process is the same. But the difference is, after clicking on the properties, you have to select standard IA. And then just scroll down to the bottom and click on upload. Once it is done, click on close. Now you can see in which storage class the object has been uploaded. Standard IA. In the same way, I will upload all other objects quickly using different storage classes. So next, I will upload into the OneZone IA. Select the OneZone IA file. In the properties, I will select OneZone IA. Then click on upload. Then I will upload into intelligent pair. Once I upload all, I will show you the storage classes that each and every file is in different storage class. Add files, intelligent pair, properties, intelligent pairing, upload. Glacier instant, properties, Glacier instant retrieval, upload. And then Glacier flexible retrieval. And properties, Glacier flexible retrieval, upload. And final object into Glacier deep archive. Add files, Glacier deep archive. Select the properties, Glacier deep archive. Okay, I uploaded all the 7 files using different storage classes. If you observe here, you can see one file is in Glacier deep archive, one file is in Glacier flexible retrieval, Glacier instant retrieval, intelligent pairing, OneZone IA, standard IA, and standard. This is the one which we uploaded in the last class. Ignore that one. So now let us verify the accessibility. First, let me select the standard storage class. If I select the standard storage class, I got the open button, right? If I click on open, the file will be open. I can see the object. I can access the object. Once I see some data means the object is accessible, right? Or you can check in a different way by clicking on download. If it is downloaded, I can say that the object is available for immediate access. What about the standard IA? That is also available for immediate access. If I click on open, I can see the standard IA file. And one zone IA, that is also available. Click on open, you can see that. And then intelligent tier. Even the intelligent tier also available to immediate access. That is what I said, right? All these 4 storage classes are available for immediate access. But coming to the Glacier objects are not available for immediate access. But the Glacier Instant storage class is available for immediate access once in a quarter. That's why if I select the Glacier Instant object and if I click on open, I will be able to open the data. Even in the same way, you can download it. But if you go to the Glacier Flexible Retrieval, what is the option? There is no open or no download. Even if I go to actions, I cannot see any other option. And even if I click here, there is no option. You can see the message like, in order to access it, you must first restore it. In order to access the object, first we have to restore. So here we can note down like, to access the Glacier objects, first we have to restore. Now let us discuss about how to restore the objects from Glacier. How to restore the objects from Glacier. First, we will see about Glacier Flexible Retrieval. First, let us see about Glacier Flexible Retrieval. So for initiating the restore, there are 3 different methods available. There are 3 methods, or we can say 3 options to initiate the restore from Glacier Flexible Retrieval storage class. What are those are? The first one is expedited retrieval. Leave some space so that we can write down the time and everything. Standard retrieval and the bulk retrieval. These are the 3 methods. And coming to the Glacier Deep Archive, there are 2 methods to initiate the restore from Glacier Deep Archive storage class. Those are the standard and the second one is bulk. Expedited retrieval, standard retrieval and bulk retrieval in Glacier Flexible Retrieval. Whereas in the Glacier Deep Archive, we have only 2 methods. We have 2 methods. One is a standard and the second one is a bulk. So we will note down the times. How much time we need to wait? How much time we need to wait? That we will observe while we are initiating the restore option, and then we will note down. Generally, expedited will take like 1 to 5 minutes for 250 MB of data, but that will cost you a huge amount. Whereas the standard retrieval, I do remember like it might take like 3 to 5 hours. In the bulk retrieval, it might take like 5 to 12 hours. Whereas the standard, it might take like 12 to 24 hours. And this might take like 24 to 48 hours also. The exact values we will note down. And this expedited retrieval is able to make your data available within 1 to 5 minutes if the data is 250 MB. If it is more than 250 MB, it might take some other extra time. But almost within 1 minute, the data will be available. But that is the costliest option. For every time you retrieve, I think they will charge you like $10 or so. There are some huge charges out there. Okay. You have to purchase some kind of capacity units. There's something is there, but generally nobody will use that expedited retrieval unless it is emergency. Okay. In the expedited retrieval, the data will be available within 1 to 5 minutes. Okay, I think it's better to note down while we are initiating the restore so that we will get the accurate results. Instead of approximate values, we can get the correct values. So first one, what we do is initiate the restore on an object using expedited, but while you are doing the practical, don't use the expedited retrieval. And we will observe that the data is available within 5 minutes or not. And then initiate the restore on an object which is stored using Glacier Deep Archive Storage class using bulk retrieval. So that by tomorrow session, I think, okay, wait. If I use the bulk retrieval, it might not be available by tomorrow. Using standard retrieval. So that the object will be available by tomorrow. We can check object is available or not. Okay. So first I will initiate the restore using the expedited retrieval on an object which is stored using the Glacier flexible retrieval. Because in the deep archive, that expedited retrieval is not available. While we are restoring, we will observe the timelines for the standard and bulk also. Like how much time it will take for standard and how much time it will take for the bulk. Standard is for medium-sized data and bulk is for to restore huge data at a time. Okay, let us say if you would like to restore a 10 GB of data or 100 GB of data at a time. So always it is recommended to use bulk retrieval. For smaller size of data, you can go with standard retrieval. Okay. Right. Let me go to our S3 bucket. This is our S3 bucket. So this is the object which we would like to initiate the restore, right? How to do that is click on actions and you can see only one option called initiate restore. Click on that and it will give you 3 different options. It will give you 3 different options. But if I initiate the object, how many days that object is available for immediate access? That I have to mention here. If I say 3 and the object will be restored by 7:30 p.m., right? So from 7:30 p.m., the object is available for immediate access for number of times in the 3 days. Like today is 28, right? 29, 30 and July 1st. After 7:30 p.m., the object will be removed for immediate access. If you would like to access the object on July 2nd, again, you have to initiate the restore. Because here I am mentioning 3 days. Select the 3 days and you have to select the expedited retrieval. And the restored copy will be available until approximately July 1st, 2022. After that, the object is not available for immediate access. Okay. So for expedited retrieval, what is the timeline? 1 to 5 minutes. If you are retrieving less than 250 MB. What about the standard retrieval? the data will be available within 3 to 5 hours. Whereas for the bulk retrieval, the data will be available within 5 to 12 hours. 3 to 5 and 5 to 12. But here I will choose the expedited retrieval, but you guys don't use that expedited retrieval because that will cost you a huge amount. And then click on initiate restore. And this object is available for access in 1 to 5 minutes. So if you wait for 1 to 5 minutes, that object is available for accessibility. But in the meanwhile, what we do is, we will do the second one also. We will restore an object from Glacier Deep Archive Storage class. In the Glacier Deep Archive Storage class, you will not get the expedited retrieval method. You will get only standard and bulk retrievals. And the times are also different. Not like 3 to 5 hours. For standard, in the Glacier Flexible, it's a 3 to 5, right? But here it is not the 3 to 5. I guess it will be 12 to 24 hours. Okay, so now let me select this one, Glacier Deep Archive, which is stored into the Glacier Deep Archive. Click on Actions, Initiate Restore. You will get standard retrieval, bulk retrieval only. So here also I will select 4. So object will be available till July 2nd. After July 2nd, the object is not available. And if I select the bulk retrieval, I have to wait up to 48 hours. Typically within 48 hours. That means the data will be available within 12 hours also. But maximum it will take 48 hours. And what about the standard? It will be 12 hours. For the standard, it will be like, I can say within 12 hours. For the bulk, it will be within 48 hours. It will be within 48 hours. We will initiate it today so that by tomorrow we can check the Glacier Deep Archive object. But the object which we initiated the restore using the expedited, that will be available while we complete this Glacier Deep Archive. Okay, I will select the standard retrieval and I will click on initiate restore. So this object will be available within 12 hours. So it's been like a few minutes of expedited retrieval, right? If I select this one, you can see the open option got highlighted. If I click there, I will be able to see the data. Because I used the expedited retrieval, object will be available within 1 to 5 minutes. But if I check the Glacier Deep Archive, it is not available. If you would like to check the status, you can click on the Glacier Deep Archive object. And here you can see that the restoration is in progress. Typically within 12 hours. Once it got restored, you can see the exact time till the object is available for accessibility. Mostly in the tomorrow session, we can check all those details. Okay, so these are the different storage classes which we have to use according to your requirement. Okay, right. So it's already 7:30. Okay, any questions as of now on S3? Okay, so if you guys are clear, let us stop the session, and tomorrow we can continue with verification of that particular object which we initiated the restore using the standard retrieval, and then we can move on to the features. Like we will see like are we able to move the existing objects storage class from one storage class to another storage class, and then we can go on to the features. We will list out there are a number of features available, like static web hosting or encryption, versioning, lifecycle rules. There are a lot of things available. We will list out all the features and we can discuss about each and every feature. Okay, right. Any questions before closing the session? So by default, every object will be private object only, right? Unless we make it as a public. How to convert any object into public? Select the object, go to actions, and you can use make public using ACL. But to do that, two things to be configured on your bucket. One is you have to enable ACL, and we have to disable block public access on bucket level, which I mentioned in the yesterday session, right? So if you go to go through the document, you can see those options which we have to disable. Okay. Without enabling the ACL or disabling block all public access, we cannot make any object as a public. Just remind me, tomorrow I will show you, like we can see how to upload an object directly as a public, because by default that will be uploaded as a private, right? If you would like to upload as a private itself, we have to modify one option. While uploading the object itself, we can modify that. That also we will see in the tomorrow's session. Okay, right. Any other questions? Okay, then thank you everyone. We'll continue tomorrow.